Hi, my name is Chris Duren, and I'm an attorney in Wisconsin who's had his own law practice for the last 18 years. Today I'm going to discuss a legal topic with you. Please keep in mind that I'm just going to give you a very brief oversight of the legal topic. What I'm going to talk about today is not legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. It is my strong advice that if you do have a legal issue or questions, that you consult directly with an attorney. The next topic I'm going to talk about today is revolves around a question that I often get, and that is, why do I need a real estate attorney when buying my house? And that's a question I've received many times over the course of 18 years representing buyers when buying their home. When a buyer submits an offer to purchase on a home, they use what's called the WB11 Residential Offer to Purchase. It's a form that the state of Wisconsin has, and whenever you want to buy a residential home, that's the form that you're supposed to be using. It's a standard form. It's 9 pages. But what some people don't realize is that that WB11 form is a contract. It's a contract that falls under Wisconsin's contract laws. And it's a 9-page contract that if the buyer and the seller, have an accepted offer to purchase, they're both bound by the terms of that real estate contract. And what a real estate attorney can do for you is ensure that the buyer fills out that contract form to ensure that the buyer is protected, specifically through various contingencies, which I won't go into all of them right here during this presentation. But after you have a signed offer to purchase, assuming that the buyer submitted the offer that has all the necessary contingencies in it, and the seller has accepted that offer, then what can the attorney do? Well, probably most times, my experience, the biggest issue that comes up is the buyer has an inspection done. And the inspection comes back, and usually these inspections are really long documents and spells out a lot of different things. And the inspector may raise certain issues about the property, some which could be considered defects or which the inspector is listing as defects. And what the real estate attorney can do for you is discuss this inspection report with you and discuss with you whether there are any defects that you need to raise as issues with the seller. Specifically, are these defects where the buyer needs to put in notice of defects, potentially walk away from that transaction? Are there certain defects or just items that need to be repaired by the seller? That's something that the attorney can discuss with the buyer. The biggest issue is, the attorney can help the buyer determine what are defects under the law and what is not a defect. And the attorney can advise the buyer on, should we submit a notice of defects and have the seller repair these items, or should we just have the seller repair these items, or another avenue that is sometimes used is the buyer and the seller agree to an amendment on the purchase price, and the buyer and the seller reduce the purchase price in exchange for certain issues that may be wrong with the property. Assuming we get through the inspection and that's all taken care of, usually the next issue the attorney usually helps the buyer with is reviewing the title commitment with the buyer. After the offer to purchase, after there is an accepted offer to purchase, usually there's a title company involved that provides the title insurance for the transaction, handles the closing. The title company will, before the closing, issue what's called the title commitment. The title commitment is a document that is based on a search the title company did, which shows who has title to the property, what's required for the title company to issue good title, and also issues different exceptions to the title to the property. And I won't go into all the details of the title commitment, but what the real estate attorney can do for you is helping you understand what's in the title commitment, and can also help you. It can also discuss with you any potential issues that could be in the title commitment. For example, if there's easements affecting the property, or covenants, or subdivision restrictions, or there's liens against the property, or there's issues of the seller regarding judgments that need to be taken care of. So the seller can, so the attorney can discuss with the buyer to have the buyer help the buyer understand the terms of the title commitment. It can also help the buyer get the documents that are referenced in the title commitment. One good example is the covenants of a subdivision. And get a copy of that from the title company, and then review that with the buyer, so the buyer understands what terms and conditions the buyer is going to be subject to as part of a homeowner at that property. After the title commitment, usually a big issue is the closing documents. One thing that the attorney can do for you is get the actual closing documents you're going to sign from the title company ahead of time. And that's usually, the bulk of that's going to be your lender documents. There's also going to be what's called a closing disclosure form that's prepared by the title company normally. And that's going to show all the money that is being charged to the buyer and the seller and credited to the buyer and seller. And the attorney can review that document with the buyer before the closing, so the buyer has a good understanding of, what they're being charged at the closing, what they're being credited, and how much they're going to have to bring in. And the attorney can also, go over with the buyer all the documents they're going to sign at the closing. Specifically the mortgage, the note, and any of the documents that the lender is requiring them to sign. So we just don't go into the closing, and that's the first time that the buyer is seeing the closing documents. It's always, I think the real estate attorney can go over those documents with the buyer ahead of time. And also what the attorney can do is attend the closing with the buyer. Very rare, most closings proceed very smoothly, but once in a great while there are issues that come up at the closing table, and the real estate attorney can be there and address those issues and help resolve those issues at the closing table, so that everything goes smoothly. But that is the overall, in a nutshell, what a real estate attorney can do for you when buying a home in Wisconsin.